I still remember the day I found out my sister was getting married. Not because it was joyful, but because I found out through someone else's Instagram story. There she was, in a white lace dress, surrounded by flowers and friends, smiling so wide her cheeks glowed under the sunlight. And me? I was sitting at home with my phone in my hand, staring at a celebration I wasn't invited to. It felt like the ground had quietly disappeared beneath me, like my heart had forgotten how to beat. For a few seconds, I thought maybe it was some kind of mistake. Maybe she just didn't want a big wedding. Maybe she'd planned something small. But as I scrolled photo after photo, my name wasn't anywhere. Not in the captions, not in the tags. I wasn't there. That realization, it broke something inside me. Pause. Before I begin, I want you to take a deep breath with me. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just about betrayal. It's about what happens after your heart gets shattered by someone who was supposed to love you unconditionally. If you've ever been replaced, ignored, or made to feel invisible by your own family, stay till the end of this story. Because maybe you'll find a little piece of your own healing in mine. And if this story touches you, please like, subscribe, and share it. It means more than you know now. Let me take you back to where it all began. My sister and I, her name's Sarah, we used to be inseparable. Growing up, she was my best friend, my secret keeper, my mirror. We shared clothes, dreams, even heartbreaks. She used to hold my hand when I cried over little things, like when Mom forgot my birthday one year, or when Dad didn't show up for my school play. She would whisper, "You've got me, remember?" And I believed her. We were each other's world. Until life, until people, changed everything. It started slowly, the way most heartbreaks do. After Dad passed away, Mom got quieter. She leaned on Sarah more, because she was the older one, the responsible one. And I became the extra one. It's strange how grief can rearrange love, how one loss can turn the rest of the family into strangers overnight. I tried to help. I really did. I cooked, cleaned, stayed home while Sarah started working in the city. She'd come back every few weeks, all polished and glowing, with new clothes and stories about her new friends and this man she'd met. Daniel. That's the name I'll never forget. The first time she mentioned him, her eyes lit up in a way I hadn't seen before. "He's different," she said, almost shy. "He listens to me, really listens." I smiled and told her I was happy for her. But somewhere deep down, something didn't feel right. Because a few months later, when I met him at Mom's birthday dinner, I saw the way he looked at her. It wasn't love, it was possession. His hand always rested too tightly on her shoulder. His eyes followed her every move, even when she laughed, and when she spoke to someone else. He'd lean close and whisper something that would instantly make her quiet. I remember thinking, no one should look at love that way. But when I tried to tell her, gently, carefully, she laughed. "Oh, come on," she said, rolling her eyes. "You always overthink things. He's protective, that's all. Protective. That's the word people use before control becomes too visible. I didn't push it. Because I loved her. And because I knew that if I said too much, I'd lose her even faster. Months went by, and our calls got shorter. She stopped answering my texts. And then, one day she stopped coming home altogether. Mom didn't say much either. I think part of her didn't want to believe that Sarah was drifting away, but I saw it happening, slowly, like sand slipping through fingers. The day she finally called, it was short. "I'm getting married," she said, her voice trembling slightly. I smiled through the phone, trying to hide the ache in my chest. "That's wonderful, Sarah. When?" There was a pause. Then she said, "Next month. It'll be small, just a few people," and I believed her. Because I wanted to. I didn't hear from her again after that, until that morning. The morning I saw her wedding pictures plastered across social media. Her in that white dress. Him, Daniel, standing next to her, smiling like the world belonged to him. Their friends laughing. Her eyes red as if she'd been crying. But smiling anyway, everyone was tagged. Everyone except me. I sat there numb. I didn't cry right away. I just kept staring at the screen, scrolling, reading comments, pretending it didn't hurt. But that night, when the lights were off and the house was quiet, I broke. Not loud, just quiet, gasping sobs into my pillow. Because it wasn't just about missing her wedding. It was the realization that my sister, my best friend, had erased me from her story. For weeks after that, I avoided social media. I told Mom I was fine, that I didn't care. But I did. God, I did. And then, about a month later, the photos started spreading. Not the beautiful wedding ones. Not the smiling, perfect couple shots. No, these were different. They showed Sarah and Daniel outside their new home. He was gripping her hair, hard while she cried. And someone, a neighbor maybe, had taken pictures. The internet tore through them like wildfire. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone pitied her, but me? I didn't know what to feel, because the part of me that wanted to rush to her, to hold her, to protect her, was still alive. But there was another part, a broken, tired part, that whispered, "She chose this. She pushed you away." For nights I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing those pictures, his hand in her hair, her eyes begging for help, and I felt something I can't quite name. Grief, guilt, love, all tangled together. And then one evening, I got a message. It was from her. Just one line. "Can I come home?" My hands shook as I read it. I didn't reply right away. I just sat there staring at her words, realizing that after all this time, she finally remembered where home was, and maybe, just maybe, I was ready to open that door again. When I got home that night, I didn't cry. I thought I would. I thought I'd crumble the moment I closed the door behind me. But instead, I just sat on the edge of my bed, still in that faded pink dress I'd worn to my sister's pre-wedding dinner that I wasn't even invited to. I just stared at the wall. My phone lay silent beside me, face down. The silence that night wasn't comforting. It was heavy, like a judgment, like the quiet whisper of every time I had stood up for her, every time I had protected her, only to be pushed aside when she didn't need me anymore. It's strange how betrayal doesn't always come like a scream. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the form of an unreceived invitation. The next few days blurred together. I went to work, I smiled at people, I laughed when I had to. But inside, I was replaying everything. The way my mother avoided my eyes when the wedding topic came up, the way my sister suddenly stopped replying to my messages, the way she once promised, "You'll always be my maid of honor no matter what." And yet, there I was, forgotten. 2 days before her wedding, I got a text from her. No apology, no explanation, just a photo of her dress. "What do you think?" she'd written. I stared at that message for a long time. The dress was beautiful. Pure white lace, long sleeves, delicate embroidery. The kind of dress we used to dream about when we were little girls, pretending to get married in our backyard with plastic rings and fake flowers. I typed a reply. "It's beautiful. You'll look amazing." But then I deleted it, because she already knew. She didn't need my validation anymore. She needed an audience, not a sister. The day of the wedding came and I didn't go. I wasn't invited, but I still got dressed. I wore a simple blue dress and put on lipstick, even though I had nowhere to be. I made myself tea, sat by the window and watched the sky. I thought maybe, if I looked hard enough, I'd feel the moment when she said, "I do." But all I felt was distance. And maybe that was the moment I realized. Sometimes, the people closest to you become strangers in slow motion. I didn't post anything. I didn't reach out. I told myself I was done caring, but then the photos went viral. It started 3 days later. I was at work when my colleague Sarah gasped beside me, "Oh my God, isn't this your sister?" I turned to look at her phone, and there she was, my sister, still in that beautiful lace dress, standing outside the wedding hall, her eyes red, her mascara streaked down her face. And beside her, her new husband. His hand was gripping her hair, his face twisted in anger. Someone had caught it on camera. The caption read, "Groom loses temper after fight during reception." Guests shocked. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I thought maybe it wasn't her. Maybe it was someone else who just looked like her. But then I saw it. The necklace I'd given her last year for her birthday. She was wearing it. I felt my stomach twist. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through the comments. Hundreds of them. Some laughed. Some sympathized. Others judged. But all I could think was, where was Mom? I called her right away. No answer. I called again. Nothing. Then finally she texted me, "Don't believe everything you see online." But I knew that tone. I'd heard it my whole life. It wasn't a denial. It was shame. That night I couldn't sleep. I scrolled through every possible post, every angle of that awful photo, trying to piece together what had happened. The more I saw, the more I felt this strange mixture of sorrow and guilt. Because deep down, I had felt something was wrong about him from the start. I remembered the first time I met him. Tall, charming, confident, the kind of man who made every woman in the room feel seen. But in a way that made your stomach twist, not flutter. When he smiled, his eyes didn't. I had told her once, "He feels controlling," and she had laughed. "You're just jealous." Maybe I was, not of him, but of her world changing without me. But now the whole world could see what I'd felt. By the next morning, news outlets had picked it up. Groom assaults bride, guests shocked as video leaks. It wasn't just photos anymore. Someone had taken a video, and in it I saw my sister flinch. Not once, but twice. I saw my mother trying to pull them apart, my father shouting something blurred by the music. It was chaos. But the most haunting thing was the look on my sister's face. It wasn't fear. It was disbelief, like her whole world had cracked open in one moment. I wanted to call her, to hold her, to say, "Come home." But I didn't, not right away, because a part of me, the small, broken part that still remembered her saying I wasn't needed, whispered, "Now she'll know." That voice disgusted me, but it was real. The next day I finally got a call. Not from her, from my mother. Her voice was trembling. "She's staying with us," she said. "Please don't come over yet. She needs time." "Time?" I asked. "Time for what?" "For us to figure out what to do next," she said quietly. "People are talking. Your father's upset. She's embarrassed." Embarrassed. That word cut deep. Not hurt, not broken, not terrified. Just embarrassed. I hung up and sat in silence. For years I had been the emotional one. The one they told to get over it, to stop being dramatic. But now, when the world had actually seen what they had refused to see, they were the ones hiding. That week was long. I went to work, smiled, and pretended not to hear the whispers of coworkers who had seen the video. People talked. They always do. But what hurt the most was that she still hadn't reached out. Until the 8th day. It was late at night when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it, but then I saw her name. "Can I come over?" I stared at that message for a long time. When she arrived, she looked hollow. Her hair was tied back, her eyes sunken, her voice barely there. She didn't hug me. She just stood at my door like she wasn't sure if she was allowed in. I let her in. She sat down on the couch and stared at her hands. "I didn't know where else to go," she whispered. And in that moment, I forgot everything. The wedding, the silence, the betrayal. She wasn't my selfish sister anymore. She was a broken woman. We sat like that for a long time. She cried silently, and I listened. She told me everything. How he had been controlling from the beginning. How he would belittle her in private. How she kept thinking marriage would change him. How he had yelled at her for talking to an old friend at the wedding. "I thought I could fix him," she said softly, "like how you used to fix everything for me." Those words hit harder than I expected. Because I had spent so many years being her fixer. And the one time I stopped, she fell. We talked till dawn. She slept on my couch, clutching a pillow like it was safety. And when I looked at her in the morning, fragile, lost, and so unbearably human, I realized that maybe forgiveness isn't about forgetting what they did to you. It's about choosing not to let their mistakes define who you become. So I made her breakfast. I told her she could stay as long as she needed. And for the first time in years, we were sisters again, stripped of pride, resentment, and ego. Just two girls trying to heal from different kinds of pain. But little did I know. That wasn't the end. Because the world doesn't forgive viral scandals easily. And soon, people weren't just talking about her husband. They were talking about us. The story was spreading again. Only this time, it wasn't just about the slap. It was about the mystery sister who wasn't invited to the wedding. Me. And that's when things started to spiral all over again. They called me the forgotten sister. It started as a comment under one of the viral posts, a small line that spread like wildfire. Someone had pieced things together, an old photo of my sister's engagement party, where I stood beside her, smiling. Another picture from the wedding, where I was conspicuously absent. People began speculating, why wasn't she there? Maybe the sister knew something. And before I knew it, strangers were writing articles, dissecting our lives, twisting everything into stories that made their headlines glow. My sister wanted to disappear. She refused to leave the house. She deleted all her social media, but the world doesn't move on when you want it to. It moves on when it finds something else to destroy. I tried to protect her. I reported posts, blocked accounts, argued with commenters, but each time, I found myself staring at the screen longer than I should have, watching as the internet turned our private pain into entertainment. Until one night, I saw something that froze me. Someone had uploaded a video compilation titled, "The Truth About the Bride Who Was Slapped." At the 2-minute mark, they showed screenshots of text messages, mine, messages I had sent her months ago, warning her about him. "He doesn't look at you with love," I had written. "He looks at you like something to own." And suddenly, I wasn't just the forgotten sister. I was the jealous one, the bitter one, the one who didn't get invited because she couldn't be happy for her sister. I don't think I've ever felt that helpless. Not even when my father told me, "Don't get involved anymore," or when my mother sighed, "You always overreact." Because for the first time I realized I wasn't fighting just for her. I was fighting to exist, truthfully, in a story that had already decided what I was. A few days later, I got a call from a journalist. She said she wanted my side. I almost said yes. I almost gave her everything. The tears, the messages, the truth. But something stopped me. My sister. She sat across from me at the kitchen table that morning, her hands wrapped around a cold cup of tea, her face still pale from the weeks of sleepless nights. When I told her about the journalist, she looked at me, not as the girl who once ignored me, but as someone terrified of breaking again. "Please," she whispered. "Don't." So I didn't. Instead, I chose silence. And in that silence, I found something I hadn't felt in years: power. See, silence used to be my punishment, my family's way of making me small, but now it became my strength. Because for the first time, I realized that peace doesn't come from being understood. It comes from understanding yourself. I started going for walks again, long ones. I got back into painting, something I hadn't done since college. I even applied for a new job, one that took me out of the city, away from the noise. And slowly, the world forgot about us. The news cycle moved on. The comments stopped. The videos were buried under newer scandals. But my sister didn't forget. One evening, months later, she came to me holding an envelope. Inside was a photo from her wedding day. Not the viral one. This one was taken before everything went wrong. She stood there smiling in her dress, her eyes still full of hope. "I can't look at it," she said softly, "but I want you to keep it. You were right about him. About everything. I didn't say anything. I just nodded. Because sometimes forgiveness doesn't need words, just understanding." She moved back with my parents for a while. They treated her differently now, softer, almost careful. My mother started calling me more often, asking how I was doing. My father even apologized in his own way. "You always had a sharp eye," he said one afternoon. We should have listened. I smiled, but not out of satisfaction. It wasn't revenge I wanted, it was recognition. And now finally, I had it. But the moment that changed everything came a few months later, when my sister invited me out for coffee. I almost said no. But something in her voice felt different. She met me at a small cafe near the park where we used to play as kids. When I arrived, she was already there, waiting, smiling faintly. "I got a job," she said. "I'm starting fresh. I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I want to try. And then she looked at me. You know what's strange? When everything fell apart, the only person who didn't leave me was the one I left out. Her voice broke at the end. I didn't reply right away. I just reached across the table and took her hand. I'm glad you came back, I said. We sat in silence for a long time after that, but it wasn't the heavy kind anymore. It was soft, healing, the kind that feels like sunlight after a long storm. When we left the cafe, she hugged me, really hugged me, for the first time in years. And in that moment, I realized that life doesn't always give us closure in grand gestures. Sometimes it gives it quietly, in the way a sister finally whispers, I was wrong. That night, I looked at the photo she had given me, the one from her wedding. I didn't see the pain anymore. I saw two girls who had been through fire and survived. So I framed it, not as a memory of betrayal, but as a reminder of growth, because sometimes the stories that break us also teach us how to rebuild ourselves. Months later, I started writing about everything. Not the gossip, not the drama, but the lessons. I started a blog about family, forgiveness, and boundaries. I never mentioned names. I never shared details. But people read it. People connected. And for the first time, I felt like my pain had a purpose. My sister even helped me once, proofreading one of my posts. She smiled and said, You always were the storyteller. Funny, isn't it? I used to think the most painful thing in the world was being excluded from her happiness. But it turns out, the real heartbreak was not knowing my own worth until life forced me to see it. And now, I know that love, real love, isn't about blood or tradition. It's about presence, about who stays when everyone else leaves. I know that peace isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the sound of your own voice telling you, you did the right thing. And I know that forgiveness isn't for them. It's for you. So you can finally stop carrying what was never yours to hold. So when I see that photo now, the one that once broke the internet, I don't see shame anymore. I see strength, because the girl who wasn't invited to the wedding ended up being the one who saved her sister's soul.